Hi everyone, it's Bella, and I'm here today to talk about the upcoming presidential election and the political system in general in our country. A few people have asked me to do this, to put a lot of my views on the record as they kind of scroll through my ever-expanding Facebook page at a rapid pace, and a lot of people miss this stuff. I was recently accused of being a Republican, as if. I'm a Libertarian, former Democrat. Not a Republican, and it's essentially because I am not for Obama. But the fact is, I'm also not for Romney. So I want to talk about how the two parties are the same and what you can do about it. First of all, a lot of you guys don't realize that the two parties are the same. You feel that the Democrats, and you're probably right for the most part, but I'll explain why being right is still wrong. The Democrats want to claim that they're all for social freedoms and social liberties, while the Republicans are making no such claims in the name of national security, the so-called war on terrorism. And the Republicans want more social control. They want to tell you who you can marry and where, who you have to hire or not, not discriminate against. We'll get to that too. That sort of thing, and sort of control social issues and sort of, let the church dictate morality to the rest of us. Whereas, the Democrats want to have more control over the economy, over corporations, and the Republicans don't want to do anything at all. They, laissez-faire capitalism is, for all intents and purposes, God. I hate to use that expression since they're so quick to do it, but in this case, the almighty dollar is really who their God is. Whatever they do for the religious right is what they do for votes. Both parties divvy up identity groups and go after them with certain platform planks in the interest of, not just building a case for America, but building coalitions that will allow them not to do what's best, but just to beat the other guy. What we need to do in this country, and neither party wants to talk about this, even as they're beginning to. There was, we're going to audit the Fed, and there are, a few other pieces of legislation that are bipartisan that have come down the pipe to address some of the economic issues. But what we need to do is find a balance between laissez-faire capitalism and individual rights of the people in this country. And that's a very difficult thing to do. I don't always agree with the Libertarians on this. Libertarians are with the Republicans, and they want a completely open, totally free market. And that would be great if, corporate interests have proven over time that they can handle that responsibility, which clearly they haven't done. But again, we have the two major parties that have some conflicting views on that, neither of which really help the individual voter. So, for instance, corporations are not people. We need to overturn Citizens United. Corporations are not people, not for purposes of political charity, not for purposes of really anything that has to do with law. If corporations go out and, they go out and they pollute the groundwater, say, they're fracking, they're looking for natural gas, they're fracking, they're using these chemicals that are harmful to people that are coming out in their drinking water, someone has to be responsible for that. They can't just say, well, we're a corporation, there's lots of people here, no one's criminally responsible. Everyone is criminally responsible. Everyone at that company knows what it is that they're doing to the environment, and they will sit there and they will protect it because they need that advantage for their own bottom line, and we can't give them that. We can't have sick kids and red water and all this other stuff. People can't even shower just so some corporation can make a few extra dollars for shareholders to say, well, guess what, we're individuals too. You can't do that. There's two schools of thought in libertarianism. There's that one, and there's the one that says, that the individual person is paramount and that all other interests are secondary. And that's really the constitutional position. Hence, we have a Bill of Rights and that sort of thing. So, furthermore, banks should not be gambling with your money. Glass-Steagall signed by a Democrat, taken advantage of, and run amok during a Republican administration in George W. Bush. Actually, I have a little experience myself with selling subprime mortgages and realizing very quickly that they're not only not good for consumers, but not good for the economy overall. So I got out of that business. But the bank should not be gambling with your money. Credit default swaps were another issue. The housing bubble, as in the prices of the real estate down here. For instance, I live in a condo that my boyfriend paid $365 for, and it's worth like $235 now, or something along those lines. I mean, the market is just absolutely ludicrous right now. It's just haywire. I wish I could sit here and say that corporate interests can be responsible with a laissez-faire market, but the fact is there has to be a floor. There has to be a bottom plank that says, okay, you can't do this because this will make the economy fall below this point. And of course, if it's enforced across the board, it's not corporate favoritism. The problem with corporatism in America right now is that it really depends on the power of lobbyists. We're not talking about corporations in general gaining all this power. We're talking about some gaining more power than others because they had more power to begin with to pay for and sort of educate and sort of send these lobbyists to Washington to get whatever it is that they want. So I believe in an open market. I believe in a fair market. I can't say that I believe in a totally free market. History has proven time and time again that those with power cannot be trusted. So I'm not an anarchist like a lot of Republicans and Libertarians. I'm a minarchist. I think that we can have a limited amount of government, that the federal government is granted certain powers by the Constitution, and that is, to protect life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, protect us from foreign invaders, protect us from people who want to, even domestic people who want to kill us, they provide the justice system, that sort of thing. And a lot of these things are social justice issues, but not all of them. Yeah, the market works best when, it's further, I should say the market works the most complete when it's free. But again, that doesn't mean that everybody in corporate America should be able to, to make policy that affects everybody else in such a negative way without anybody having any say in it. But shifting gears a little bit regarding social justice and regarding corporate justice and the two parties, I want you to keep one thing in mind. You can't legislate business ethics or standards. Or sorry, you can legislate business ethics or standards, but you can't, I'm taking this from notes, but you can't legislate morality. So it should be easy for the government to say, as opposed to saying you have to do things this way, this way, this way, this way. It'd be very easy and very constitutional for them to say you can't do this, you can't do that. Again, keeping the light touch and sort of creating boundaries as opposed to hard and fast rules. Because I mean, who wants hard and fast rules? Period. Nobody does. Not individuals, not corporations, not anybody. But there has to be boundaries. In terms of legislating morality, I'm talking about hate crime legislation. I'm talking about equal rights legislation, so-called equal rights legislation, which is really just class protection legislation, which makes it inherently unequal and anti-liberty. Because you can't tell a person what to think, how to feel, who to have around them. As a trans woman, I don't feel comfortable telling somebody else, California law says you have to hire me, so you should hire me. I don't feel comfortable doing that. Forcing things on people only causes resentment. That's all there is to that. You can't legislate it. People will hate you for it. And the bottom line is everybody can hide it. I can go into a job tomorrow and, they could not even tell me they know I'm trans, and this has happened to me before. And they can say, oh, sorry, we can't help you. And then I wonder if they discriminate against me, but there's no way I can prove it. So in the end, the laws really have no effect anyway. And in terms of hate crime legislation, aren't all violent crimes hate crimes? You know, if I could take a baseball bat and you know, smash some guy over the head with it, and he's a middle-aged white guy, that's a violent act. Isn't that, wouldn't that necessarily have to be hateful regardless? So the whole thing about hate crime legislation, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. It's an arbitrary qualifier of the sentence after the fact. It's the same thing as minimum sentences. They don't make any sense. Moreover, the Republicans, let me see here, getting back to business legislation, the Republicans don't want to regulate anything. We talked about this. Record companies right now, I'm sorry, record companies, sorry, oil companies are making record profits. Record companies are getting killed. Oil company, and we'll get to that too, the whole internet censorship thing, are getting killed. But oil companies are making huge profits. You know, gas is over $4 a gallon down here in California. Lots of these companies are charging fees, Bank of America, that sort of thing. Not to mention that, you know, the military prison industrial complex, Eisenhower warned us about, you know, since the 70s and the so-called war on drugs. Thank you, Nixon. You know, the prison complex has definitely sort of interjected itself into that oligarchy. But it has to stop eventually. I mean, you know, we have an economy right now where corporations hoard their cash and people don't have jobs and homes don't have owners. You know, that's what it is. It's wealth hoarding for those at the top. It's not trickling down, people. You know, it's time for something better. I wish I could say, God, I wish I could say that the free market would save us here and that trickle down works and that we should just be patient. But you know something? It's not working. It will never work. The idea of a business is to make money. It's not to spend money. They're not going to go out and hire people just because it's good social policy. It's bad corporate policy. So there have to be incentives in place, whether it be, you know, legislative or economic, whether the IRS gets involved or the courts, that says, you know, there has to be a level playing field here. You can't hoard all the cash at the top. Which, by the way, is why I'm actually for the estate tax. Again, lots of libertarians and Republicans will bash me for that one, but I'm sorry, you're dead. What do you need with your money? You know what I mean? They're not taking all of it. They're taking a portion of it. And you really don't need it. You know, I mean, these are things we're talking about. We're talking about, you know, they want to get rid of taxes on dead people. Come on. God, you know, that sounds like something Bill Maher would say. I'm going to have to do a funny political segment at some point. This isn't really funny. This is all kind of depressing stuff. But the bottom line in regards to the two major parties is they both want the same thing. They both want control. One group wants to control one thing, one group wants to control the other thing, but the bottom line is they all want control. Why can't we have libertarianism in this country? Why can't we say, hey, let's send all of that federal power. Let's cut the uniformity. Let's send all of that power back to the states where it belongs, where people are actually engaged at the state and local level. And they can make decisions for themselves. Because remember, this isn't even really a democracy. This country is what, a democratic republic? It's really a republic. You know, a democracy doesn't protect you from the tyranny of the majority, but it was founded as a republic and should be a republic because that's the only way to ensure equal rights. That's the only way for anyone to stop the big bully from picking on the little kid and stealing his lunch money and his bike. So, you know, what else can we do? You know, again, for me, libertarianism is about the liberty of the individual. It's not just about the market. It's not just about economics. So, and actually, I should probably read this semi-verbatim, and I'm going to finish up here as quickly as I can because we're kind of running out of time here. They both want the same control. They just want different kinds of control. It's control nonetheless. While libertarians say, hey, let's send some power back to the state so people can live in a place more in tune with their own personal values. If you're a socialist, you can live in Massachusetts or California. If you're a bigot, you can live in Tennessee. No one will stop you. You know, because, I mean, if you're trans, would you want to live in Tennessee? Would you want to live in Mississippi, Alabama? I mean, these places have messed up laws anyway. That's what democracy does. You know, and at the state level, that's fine. But at the federal level, it extends. Look at DOMA, for instance, Defense of Marriage Act. Because of that, states can't give people liberties. So, again, federal centralized control is not a good thing because it overrides the will of the voters. Let me see here. We already talked about tyranny of the majority. And again, tyranny of the majority is the real enemy. And, the Democrats are always talking about democracy this, democracy that. The Republicans will at least say, hey, this is a republic. Yeah, they want fucked up laws, but their guiding principles are the guiding principles that they're supposed to have as Republicans, as opposed to this bastardization of whatever's happened in the Republican Party over the last 20 years, is really not doing them any favors. It's really not doing them any favors. So I want to talk about what you can do about it, and then I will let everybody go. Please consider a third-party vote, especially Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson. That's right. If you live in a state that's not a swing state, you can show your disapproval of the two-party system, the duopoly, by voting your conscience. Because, again, if you live in a state where it's a foregone conclusion that, say, I'm in California, Obama's going to win. It doesn't really hurt Obama if I vote for Gary Johnson. It doesn't exactly, swing the election over to Romney, because he'll never get elected here. So if you live in a state where the results of the election are not a foregone conclusion already at this early stage of the game, with, over 2 months left to go, please seriously consider voting for any third party, but specifically, please look at Gary Johnson. The Libertarian platform, again, always being more for the rights of the people. I wish I had more time to get into more specifics. You can check out my blog, my new blog, bellabelucci.com. The adult stuff is now at xx.bellabelucci.com. But I'll be analyzing the libertarian position a little bit more over the next few weeks and months, to give you an idea of why it's really a good idea. I will continue to make my case. This is just sort of a very cursory sort of statement video from me. Let me see here. But whatever you do, don't vote for Romney. Bad. He's a corporatist just like the Democrats, and he's a Mormon. And I'm sorry, but the Mormons, with their magic underwear and Prop 8 here in California, I wrote this. I'm going to read this word for word. His church rammed Prop 8 up the ass of the California Constitution. Apparently that kind of anal sex is not against his religion. So, the scapegoating of so-called fringe groups is really just using hate to wedge people against each other, and also to sort of, divide and conquer in terms of building their own credibility with the mainstream Christian community and the mainstream denominations, which is great political strategy, but it's bad for the individual. And the duopoly continues to feed into this by continuing to justify and validate the use of identity politics in our elections. When really, something, we shouldn't be talking about identity politics at all. We should be getting out of groupthink. We're all Americans, but at the same time, we all have separate interests. We all need to be respected as individuals, with our own individual tastes and our own individual needs. I think that people should vote in such a way where they consider what's best for the greatest number of people. And that's, like I said, what being an American is all about. But at the same time, you don't have to sell yourself out to do it. You don't have to choose a major party and suffer on some issues to gain in others if that's not what you want to do. There are other options out there. So get out of that groupthink. Start thinking for yourself. Start thinking about what it is that you want. And if that's to protect others, then great. And I think part of your vote should be affected by that. And again, that's why I hate to say this, Obama is better than Romney. But there's an even better choice where you really wouldn't have to give up as much, where you can still protect the individual without putting anybody else out, including yourself. Let me see here. Gary Johnson is pro-civil rights, anti-Patriot Act, anti-NDNA, or sorry, NDAA. That's the provision that allows the government to lock up American citizens. Internet censorship in its very numerous forms. Legalization of marijuana, the drug war, an absolute waste of time, and another financial pressure on us economically and socially. And more local control of government so that we can really find a way in these tough times to bring together people to stop depending on government programs and start depending maybe a little bit more on each other. Stop being so, segmentalized, and you can be an individual and you can be independent without being apathetic. And we need to stand up to corporate interests and say enough is enough. You can't buy our elections. This isn't about what's best for the companies that supposedly serve the people. It's too many middlemen. Government's a middleman. The corporations are middlemen. This is about the people. Vote for the people. Vote for Gary Johnson. And really, that's it. Seriously consider a third party, but seriously, super seriously consider Gary Johnson. Really look at the platform, the Libertarian Party platform, and don't say, oh, that will never work. Okay, it remains to be seen. No third party has been given the opportunity in over 100 years. So, and they're not going to win this time. Gary Johnson's not going to win. I'm going to tell you right now. You're voting for a man who will not win. However, he will not, in most states, cause Obama to lose. So please speak your voice. Don't vote for the lesser of two evils. Vote what's best for you, your family, and your country. Thank you.